Let's also tell you about the other aspect of what Donald Trump said. He's now narrating a completely different story with regards to his ceasefire claims. Now he's recalling what happened in those calls between India and the United States. What did the Prime Minister tell him? So here it is US President Donald Trump, who is now offering a different kind of a account on India-Pakistan relations. He's recalling his conversation with Prime Minister Narendra Modi during Operation Sindoor, and then he goes on to say, and I quote from what Donald Trump is saying, he says, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi told me, no, we will fight. So here once again India's stand gets vindicated. The Prime Minister conveyed to Donald Trump that no, we will fight. He also called the Prime Minister a tough negotiator. Let's play out what Donald Trump has said.
Prime Minister Modi is the nicest looking guy. He says, oh, and he looks like you'd like to have your father, like, he's a killer, he's tough as hell. No, we will fight. I said, whoa, this is the same man that I know. But after a little while, and they're good people, and after literally 2 days, they called up and they said, we understand, and they stopped fighting. How is that? Isn't that amazing? Now, you think Biden would have done that? I don't think so. Prime Minister Modi is the nicest looking guy. He says, oh, and he looks like you'd like to have your father, like, he's a killer, he's tough as hell. No, we will fight. I said, whoa, this is the same man that I know. But after a little while, and they're good people, and after literally 2 days, they called up and they said, we understand, and they stopped fighting. How is that? Isn't that amazing? Now, you think Biden would have done that? I don't think so. Prime Minister Modi is the nicest looking guy. He says, oh, and he looks like...
Let me go across to my colleague Rishabh. Rishabh, this is not the first time that Donald Trump has described the Prime Minister using the terms that he just did. Here he calls the Prime Minister a killer, a tough guy, somebody who conveyed to him very clearly when it comes to his country that no, we will continue fighting. But this seems to be a different kind of an account that he's offering after the multiple claims of ceasefire that he made. How do you assess this comment of Donald Trump?
Well, we need to understand something. We always take things that Donald Trump say with a pinch of salt. And this is a change of tone for the US president. Someone who have been saying that I used trade and told both sides to stop war, and they agreed. Now says that no, India resisted to his offer and said that India will fight. We also need to take into consideration that there is no proof, or there is no record for that matter, no readout even from the United States or India, where we can see that Prime Minister Narendra Modi did speak to Donald Trump. There is no such thing where we can suggest...
Rishabh, I apologize for cutting you short, but we have foreign affairs expert Rabinder Sachdev joining us. Mr. Sachdev, Donald Trump says Prime Minister Narendra Modi is the nicest looking guy, but when he called him, the Prime Minister told him, no, we'll continue fighting, and then he thought, oh my God, this guy's a killer. Those are the words Donald Trump used to describe the Prime Minister. What do you have to say about his assessment of the Prime Minister and his account of what happened in those days when the calls went out and the hotlines worked up between both India and US during Operation Sindoor?
Thank you so much. I think a couple of things are emerging, have been emerging. One, that, Trump and his perception of Prime Minister Modi has been of a person who's a strong leader and who stands up and who's a tough negotiator also. You might remember, I think several times our audiences will remember, Trump has said that, right? So India has stood up with respect to what we consider its national interest. Now, there have been differences, one. Secondly, Trump has had a certain perception of, the ceasefire that he says and the trade threats that he made on India and the number of aircraft shot down, etc. I think we should let that slide away slowly. We should not, look repeatedly in countering those. There is no point. He's already said like 50 times. That's a perception he holds. Fine. It is a misperception, but he holds that. Okay. So we look at what he is saying in terms of the trend. Yeah, I mean, India is a negotiator, but at the same time, Prime Minister is a killer, killer leader. If he's saying that, I've not heard that comment, but you're saying yes,
he just
course.
Did. He also called him the nicest looking guy, and only for the want of time, I'll have to thank you there. With that, viewers, it's time for us to take a short commercial break. We'll be back with more news and updates.